Hi everyone, I'm Christina. Welcome to my channel about yoga and personal growth. Little background to me, I am a 200-hour trained yoga teacher. I've been teaching for 2 years now, and I'm also a middle school history teacher. So I've been driven to talk about the history of yoga and also to remove some of the mystery around yoga. I think that there's a lot of people who say like, oh, I could never be a yogi, but not really truly understanding what that means. So I want to make that approachable for everybody. What does it mean to be a yogi? And also, how does that term vary throughout? So I'll start with just explaining what yoga means. So yoga is the union of mind, body, and spirit all together. And as I'll talk about in other videos, it's not just, when we think of it, we think mostly of the body. Like we think of the poses that people do. We rarely think about the mind and the spirit also playing into that. And so in other videos, I'll talk a little bit about how all of those things, or through my videos, I'll talk about how all those things work together. In order to understand history, we always need a timeline. So I'll start here. So just to explain the timeline here, this is BCE or BC, and then this is CE or AD. This is year 1 right here. So I'm not going to talk too much about what happened in BCE with yoga, but just know that it does have its roots are in ancient India, are in Hinduism, and then later in Buddhism. And I'm happy to kind of connect with you about that and point you to some resources to find out some of the ancient roots. I want to focus on the Yoga Sutras, which were created somewhere around 200 CE. And that's a yogi text, I'll call it, of guidelines of how to unite your mind, body, and spirit all together. And from that is where modern yoga kind of grows out of. So around 500 CE, we start to see the emergence of what's called Hatha yoga, which is the pose work that we know, like the different, warrior 1, warrior 2, those things started around this time. So that wasn't back then, that was around this time that we start to think of it almost as we see it today. And there are several different styles of Hatha yoga, and that's why I have these lines coming off of it, because each person, just as always happens in history, each person took the Yoga Sutras and made it into their own approach, okay? And then today, so from 1900 to today, it really has changed and emerged into all these different, even more offshoots than before. And some offshoots, they stick really closely to the classical yoga, and then some really make it their own. So again, it's being a yogi means a lot of different things. I guess the question that you want to think about is, what do you need from your yoga? So do you want spiritual growth? Do you want to focus on the alignment of your asana, your pose practice? Do you want healing yoga, hot yoga, vigorous flow? Do you want to change your entire lifestyle? There is a type of yoga out there for you. All of these have their own different groups. I am not going to talk about each of the different kinds that go into them, but I would guess that you probably will recognize some of the names if I were to say them. I'm only going to talk about the vigorous flow because this is the kind of yoga that I teach and that I do. So I would characterize what I teach just as vinyasa flow, though my training is also in power yoga. But vinyasa flow, vinyasa means to place in a special way. And the flow just denotes kind of the moving about of the poses. So it flows with the breath, and each time that you come to my class, you'll experience a little bit of a different flow, moving through some different poses, but all of them building on each other and always moving with the breath. So I will be posting some flows, some vinyasa flows on my channel. But again, I will also be focusing a lot on the mind and the spirit aspect that goes into it. It can't really be separated. It should really all be one, folding into the other. So I hope that you learned something. I hope that you feel like you can be a yogi now, because anybody can be a yogi. You just have to put your mind to it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.